Okay, you are live. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. Microphone good? Yeah, good. Now we're coming over here and live over here. Okay, welcome everybody. How are we doing tonight? Good, Baruch Hashem. Got to hear it. Ready? That's a good start. Okay. Good. We're continuing on in the Sefer Yetzirah. We are now. Second, give myself some space here. Okay. On our 26th class. And hello, how are you? Wow, Def Leppard. I used to listen to Def Leppard when I was in high school. Do you understand? Just to let you know how old that band is. Okay. We are still in chapter 1. We're in chapter 1, subsection 5. And we are now on page 48, if those who are following along in the English book. And we're talking about the 10 Sefirot. So now we're delving into this chapter 1, subsection 5, and getting into, as we've been doing for the last few classes, the idea of these Eser Sefirot bli ma, the 10 Sefirot of nothingness. And now the Sefer Yetzirah is talking about this concept, where it's page 48, where it says, their measure is 10, which have no end. And the Hebrew of that is Eser Sefirot bli ma, midasan esra she'ein lehem sof. And it's interesting language. So it says like this. The Sefer Yetzirah does not say their number is 10, but their measure is 10. Right? That's the language over there. And it makes a difference, as we'll find out, right? What it is saying is that the Sefirot define a continuum of 10 directions or 5 dimensions. So it's less about this idea that there's, and more about this concept that there is actually 10 directions or 5 dimensions, which we've been talking about at length. We spoke about that. Directions or movements, right? We have beginning and end, good and evil, up, down, north, south, east, and west. And that's what it says now. Each of these direct. Why does it keep cutting out? I don't understand this. It's just maddening. It's 1 second. I just want to make. I'm not sure why it keeps coming. I have, I don't know, technical difficulties, what's going on here. But all right, continuing on. So it says, each of these directions is said to be infinite and endless. Indeed, in saying that they have no end, the Sefer Yetzirah uses the term Ein Sof. This is a term usually used for God, the infinite being. Each direction extends without limit. And in this respect, the Sefirot share a property with the infinite being. And that's what it's going to talk about in a minute when we get to this concept of a depth. So again, the Sefer Yetzirah doesn't use the term, the number is 10, but their measure is 10. And if you go through like we did before on page 44, it explains over here a depth of beginning and a depth of end. And it's talking about Ein Sof, no end. Meaning each one of the Sefirot has infinite potential inside of it. So Chesed is not limited. Gevurah is not limited. Tiferet is not limited. Netzach is not limited. None of these are limited. Meaning wherever energy is focused, you could continue on in that direction ad infinitum forever. We're talking, and again, I don't want to make this into a current events class, but you see what's going on with the Epstein files. I've been saying this for years because I studied, unfortunately, or fortunately, that's how I came to tshuva, by studying evil and by realizing there's literally very, very evil people out there. And just as you meet people who are so good and they just keep doing more and more good, and it seems your capacity for good is endless, you have the opposite direction. In fact, it's a basic premise of all of life. Whichever direction or wherever you put your energy in, God will assist you in continuing on that energy continuum. So what does that mean? It means they call it going down a rabbit hole, meaning sometimes you could spend so much energy and time in something that is so meaningless and so not important in your life, because once you start traveling in a certain way, it builds momentum. It's called like a snowball. So if you start going in one direction and you keep putting more and more power and energy into that one direction, it will keep going and keep going and keep going. And let's just use Netzach, for example. Netzach literally means confidence, but it means victory or winning. There are people that become so obsessed with winning that they can't have a normal life, because every single thing they do is focused on, I need to win, I need to be the best, I need to keep, and they don't know how to pull themselves back. There's no hod to measure. In fact, it's very interesting in the Hemshech Samek Vav by the Rebbe Rashab. He explains that a person can literally never grow and be in the same place in their life and think they're improving themselves, but they're literally in the same place and they keep going higher and higher and higher, but they haven't moved. So it's a false sense of I'm improving or I'm growing, but you're not going anywhere. It's kind of like running on a treadmill. So, why do they think that they're growing? Because wherever you are, you have the potential to keep going more and more and more if you don't shift. This is why you need guides, you need mashpiyim, you need people outside of you to correct you, to sit and say, listen, you got to change course, you got to move directions. You know, it's like someone could rev up your engine for years and never put it into gear and drive. I'm revving and I'm warming the engine, but you're not going anywhere. Because you could literally keep going in the same place all the time. And this is the same concept of these Sefirot, that for better or for worse, God forbid, once you put energy into a direction, it can continue on and on and on and on, which is why the ultimate goal of all the Sefirot is to reach a point of balance, where you have equal energy in both places. You have equal chesed and equal gevurah to balance out tiferet. So when you get to a middle place, you are now grounded, if you will. Because otherwise, you can literally get lost just going in an infinite direction. And that's why it's important. It says the Sefer Yetzirah does not say their number is 10, but their measure is 10. Because each one of these dimensions has a measure to it, and the measure could go on forever without getting to a balancing point. Okay, and we see the same idea with the infinite being with Ein Sof, right? In other words, who's closer to God? Someone who is in stage 1 or stage 1,000,000? They're both equal distance from God, because God's infinite. So we can delude ourselves to think that we have grasped God, or we understand God, or people think they've met God, or they've seen God, or God has spoken to them. It's not real. God is infinite. God is, you can have a relationship with God, but you can never grasp onto something that's infinite. And it's the same thing with the Sfirot. You can never fully grasp the Sfirot because they go on forever. Ein Sof, just like Hashem. And it says over here, the initiate is here given an allegory through which he or she can perceive his or her path to the infinite being. And this language is very interesting. It says the initiate, because again, the Sefer Yetzirah was originally written and designed not as a book of knowledge, but as a book of how to traverse into spiritual realms and to work on trying to connect to an infinite God. And that's why it says the initiate, because the initiate is literally one who is going on this journey. The path to connecting to Hashem is a journey. Hi, how are you? Oh, Hashem, good. We're on page 48, if you want to join. It's a journey, and it goes on forever and ever and ever. But the term is an initiate. What is an initiate? It's someone who says and says, I'm ready to go on this journey, right? It's someone who says, I want to be an initiate. I want to enter into the journey of becoming a musician. Give you an example. When do you succeed in this journey? I've been practicing law for 28 years. They still call it the practice of law. Why am I still practicing? Does it become real at some point in time? Are you done practicing? Do you actually okay, I'm done practicing. It's for real now. Why do they call it the practice of law? Because you never have fully ownership over it. No one could say, I own the law. I've mastered the entire law. It's impossible. It's the same thing with connecting to God. It's the same thing with any endeavor. Mastery is a path. It's not a destination. No one can really get to a place where they say they've mastered anything, because then you're done. You stop learning. You stop growing, because you delude yourself into thinking, I've got it figured out. Now I know I've mastered whatever it may be. And then someone comes along and they beat you in whatever it is you think you've mastered, and they throw you for a whole loop. And you're like, how is that possible? Because mastering something is a similar concept to saying, now I understand. Once you get to a place where you say, okay, I got it now, I figured it out, you're shutting your brain down and you're tricking yourself into believing that you know every single thing possible about whatever it is that you're doing. And then what happens? You stop growing. You create what's called as a glass ceiling over your head, because now you check off a box. Okay, I'm done with that. Are you? How could you ever end? So an initiate is someone who says, I'm going on this journey. I'm going on this journey to become a musician, a teacher, a lawyer, an artist, a therapist. It's a never-ending journey. It's an initiate. You never get to a place where you say, okay, I'm done. I figured it all out. And it's the same thing in our connection to God. It becomes a journey, and it's a fun journey. It's an amazing journey. And we have to have the same approach with our life. We have to become initiates to our life. At some point in time, and we speak about this a lot in these classes and for Brighams, at some point in our life, we need to make a shift where we go away from blaming into taking responsibility, and then from taking responsibility into ownership. What's the difference? When we're blaming, we still are becoming a victim, right? Well, I'm becoming just like my mother. I'm just like my father. Well, this is how my mother is. This is how my father. Well, it's not my fault. Like that jerk, who when I grew up did this. What a lot of people live their life like that. I did it. We've all done it. It's a very painful place to be, because you spend your whole life just blaming everyone else. Right? Look at anti-Semitism. It's the most sickest thing in the world. All your problems are because of the Jews. That makes a lot of sense, right? Whatever you're going through, why? It's the Jews' fault. That's an easy scapegoat. Blame it on the Jews. How about taking responsibility for your own life? Anytime you're blaming anyone or anything for someone else, you've become a victim. And when you become a victim, there's no place for growth. You're just saying, my life is worthless. It's not my fault. It's their fault. So then you become to a place where you start taking responsibility. Responsibility is starting to grow a little bit. It's in Chassidut, we have this concept, right? It's called the first stage is Ibor, then you have Yenika, and then you have Mochin. Ibor is pregnancy. Yenika is suckling or nursing, and then Mochin is growing up. Ibor, the first stage, is you're in your parents' womb. It's not your life. You're not responsible for your life. You're not taking responsibility for your life because you're still connected to your mother, your father, whoever it is that is keeping you in your place in life, and you're not growing because you're still holding on like this. And then you start taking the next stage of growth, which is a responsibility, which is you're suckling, you're taking nurture from them, but you're starting to become your own person. And then ultimately you have mochin, where your brain develops, and you say, now I'm my own person. I'm no longer living in the shadow of my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, my teacher, my coach, a religion, whatever it is that you're putting that responsibility on. So responsibility is the first step of saying, I'm now taking a level of responsibility for my life. But then the higher level is ownership. Ownership is where you're saying, there's no room anymore for anyone's fault or any blame. I have to do it. I'm going to do it. Until you reach this level of awareness, you'll never succeed in anything. Because until you take ownership of something where you say, I'm doing this. And, I was talking to, when I was coaching one of the guys in the center earlier, and he's having a problem with his Yiddishkeit, with his connection to God. It's not a unique problem. Most people have this problem. And, sometimes he's on, sometimes he's off, sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not working, sometimes he feels like davening, sometimes he doesn't feel like davening. And he's going through these challenges. Yeah, right? Most people. Thank you. And he told me, he's like, I'm asking you as a mishpia, what is your advice for me? I said, listen, there's no mishpia in the world. There's no coach in the world. There's no therapist in the world who can get you to take ownership of your relationship with God. I tell my family all the time, if I went to work when I felt like it, we would all be sitting on the side of the road in a tent, and we'd be eating bread and drinking water every day. No one feels like working. No one's in the mood of working. No one feels like working out. No one's in the mood to work out. No, it's resistance. Anytime you have to go through resistance, it hurts. It's painful. It's difficult. But until you start saying, until you develop a mindset, and that's what I told him, when God becomes a priority for you, and you realize that in life, you have a wheel, and in that wheel, there's spokes, and every one of those spokes are very important. You have your family, you have your husband or wife, your children, your parents, you have hobbies, you have giving back to your community, you have a job, you have exercise, whatever it is that are on your spokes. God is the hub. God is the central point. And until you have that consciousness, then God will just be a spoke in the wheel that sometimes yes, sometimes no. I can't create that consciousness for you. I can't make God a priority for you, just like I can't make work a priority for you, just like I can't make exercise a priority for you. Until we get to a place in our life where we find something, and this takes adaptation, it takes work, it takes steps. It's not an all or nothing. Someone doesn't go from white to black overnight. It's stages. Everything is shades of gray, and it's one step at a time. But it's when we get to a point where we switch in our brain and say, now I'm taking ownership of this thing. And ownership means that if I fall down, I'm getting back up. If it's hard one day, I'm going to try again the next day. If I fail, I realize that the failure is just another stage to a higher success. It's a life path. It's a journey. Mastery is a journey. It's a time when we get to our life when the clock is ticking and weeks are going by and months are going by and years are going by. And okay, it's a new year. Let me set my New Year's resolutions. And like that, it's gone. And we say, oh my God, where did that year go? This year, I'm going to do it. And we watch the numbers in our age go 3, 4, 5, 6, and they keep going higher. And life goes really fast. It disappears in a blink of an eye. And we get to a place in our life where we start looking behind us and having regret instead of looking forward to anticipation. It should never happen to anyone. The Rebbe is very against retiring, that we should continue to grow for our whole lives. But it becomes a habitual behavior that you have to shift. And I went off on a little bit of a side thing, but this is the idea in initiate. Initiate is saying, I'm going on this journey. And I'm going to go on this journey, and that means part of a journey is like this. There's no journey that you're just going straight, because it may seem easy, but it's boring. It gets boring really fast. It's the dips. It's the ups and downs. You like boring? Not so much. There's no such thing in life that doesn't. It's called not being realistic. That's like the guys that say, you know what? I want to be a millionaire. What are you doing? I'm not working. What's the problem with it? It's not realistic. There's no endeavor you're ever going to take in life that you don't have dips. Look at a stock market curve over existence. It doesn't go straight up and down, up and down, up and down. It's going higher, but it keeps dipping. There's nothing you could possibly do in this world that every time you touch it, it's success after success after success after. Wow, this is wonderful. Doesn't work. It's not realistic. No one in the world, the most successful people in the world, don't have such results. The most successful people in the world are only successful because they've gotten comfortable failing. That's the difference in success and failure. Failure is, I fell down, I'm staying down, not for me. Success is, I fell down, I'm going to get up again. I fell down, I'm going to get up again. I fell down, I'm going to get up again. It's just a shift in a mindset. So the idea is there's an initiate. We're entering into this realm of the Spirot, into this realm of God, of saying, I'm going on a journey. I'm going on a journey. It's not only to God, but it's to myself. Because in the end of the day, we all want to feel like we make a difference. We all want to feel like we have a purpose. We all want to feel like we're individuals. We all want to feel like we have a value. And we're all searching. Everyone is searching all the time, consciously or unconsciously. We're unhappy because we're not satisfied with it in our life because we gave up looking. We're not looking. We're searching. You have to go on this journey. And part of this journey to understand yourself and to find yourself involves God because he's our creator. So it becomes a partnership. It becomes a partnership. It becomes a journey with God. We say, you know what? Help me. Help me in this journey. Help me when I fall. Help me with my struggles. Help me with my ups. Help me with my downs. It becomes a partnership.
So the failure and opposite of success is so normal. Why no one knows about it?
What do you mean?
I didn't know that failing is normal. I thought I'm failing because something is not wrong with me. You understand? Most of the people don't see failure as a, you know what, it's a step. Come look to this Edison, you're the one. Most of the people don't show it, and no one is going to tell you exactly like going to the Northern Light and discover that there's no color screen. No one is telling you the truth that failure is real and you have to have it.
Let me ask you a question. When you learned to ride a bike, you never fell down?
And there are people that did fall.
I'm asking, do you ever fall?
Yes.
And did you say, that's it, I'm done, I'm never riding a bike again? This is how it's supposed to be. I failed, that's finished.
I fell one time or two times, I didn't fall so much.
It doesn't matter.
No, because one, two. Someone failing, and you said, you know what? I'm like,
again, you have to
hiding their failing and showing only the success.
That's not true.
It is.
It is not true.
I found that really
that is not true. If you study, I don't know where you're getting your information from, but anyone out there who is putting themselves in a public realm, who is speaking in any capacity, whether it's a musician, a sports star, a successful businessman, a successful family person, they will all tell you openly, honestly. He became an overnight success. Yeah, you didn't see 20 years of 15 hours a day pounding to become that overnight success. Maybe your perception is to see someone who is successful. But if you really take the time to learn about that person, you will see what it took to become successful.
It's a difference between working hard and fail. It's two different things. Working hard, okay, I get it. Everyone working hard. Failing, it's painful.
Because you have to reframe what the word failing means. Failing doesn't make you a failure. Failing means you tried to do something and it didn't work. So you have to recalibrate and figure out how to do it differently. That's what failing is. Failing doesn't mean it's like, okay, you're in school and your teacher gives you an F one year and you drop out of school. You're like, I'm a failure. No, you got an F in that subject in that semester. So how do I fix it? It's a shift in a perception. It's very rare that I think the opposite of you, that someone one time in their life fails at something and thinks they're a failure for the rest of their life and never tries again because I failed. So that means I'm not meant to do this again. It doesn't make sense. You really think there's anyone in the world who is successful who hasn't failed before? You really believe that?
No.
Okay, so why are you saying that it doesn't exist? It's impossible. It's impossible. What happens is people look at people who are successful and then their brain, they say, oh, look how easy it is for them. Look, they're successful. As an excuse not to put in hard work because they think that person got lucky. Oh, he's lucky. No such thing as lucky. You know who gets lucky? People who work hard. Those are the people who get lucky. So yeah, there are people who play the lottery, one in 100 million, and they become very rich. Is that a blueprint for how to become wealthy? No, it's not realistic. So the idea is that we have to constantly re-engage. We have to re-engage. When you're raising a child and you tell a child, clean up yourself after you finish eating, and they don't do it. You say, oh, it failed. See, it doesn't work. I'm not going to say anything again. Yeah. How many times you have to keep reiterating? It's the same concept. You got to keep, it's not one and done in anything. You have to keep going over and over and over and over and over again to get where you need to go. So the initiated here is given an allegory through which he or she can perceive his or her own path to the infinite being. The allegory consists of any one of the directions. Thus, for example, up has no end. One can continue to travel in an upward direction, but can never really reach up. The same is true when one travels up spiritually. As we said a moment ago, getting connected to God. You're never connected. You're closer, but you're never connected because it's an infinite journey. It's never ending. Any endeavor that you take in your life, you have to realize it's a lifelong commitment. It's a lifelong commitment. Anyone who becomes successful in any arena in the world, in any field in the world, puts in so much effort. You see professional sports stars, why do they practice? Why do they spend day in and day out? Just show up at the game. You're very talented. There's so much effort and energy that goes in behind the scenes to become successful, really successful in anything. And it's a lifelong journey.
You said that they were going up in connection, but they're not connected. But there is a sense of connection in every development state that I'm reaching.
100%. 100%.
Getting something, a piece.
100%. It's a touch. It's got a,
something that we never touch.
it's a touchstone along the way. It's a point. It's a touch point. 100%. Correct. But we never get to the point say, okay, I don't need to daven anymore because now I'm connected to God. I don't need to practice anymore because now I've mastered the guitar. The top guitarist in the world practicing hours and hours a day. Every top band practices hours and hours in a day. Anytime you see someone perform, a comedian, an actor, a musician, a sports star, they're rehearsing that thing 1,000 times to the exact dot. I've seen trial lawyers prepare for months for a trial, and they rehearse when to drop something, when to say what word, and it all looks so natural. It's not natural. They practiced it 1,000 times to get it to that point. Okay. Move on to the next step, a depth of beginning. And this is the next place where we start going into this concept of a depth. The Sefer Yetzirah does not speak of directions, but of depths. So again, it didn't speak of a number, but it speaks of a measure. And it's not speaking of direction, but of depth. In general, the concept of depth indicates something at a great distance, as when one looks down a deep well, gazing at its depth. It therefore denotes great distance, both physical and mental. Therefore, an idea that is difficult to understand and far from one's comprehension is also said to be deep, right? You ever have a conversation with someone like, whoa, that's deep, right? Like, whoa, that's deep. No? You've never been stoned before? Whoa, that's deep, man. It's like, sometimes like you're in a different consciousness and someone says something and you're like, whoa, that's deep. What does it mean? I mean, there's a lot, there's something in there, right? Like it says, like looking down a well, you're realizing there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot of depth in here. And perfect example is the Torah, Chassidus. Like I always talk about it, like the non-off-known base sichos that I've been learning for 20 years and teaching for 10, 12 years. And every time I learn them, it seems, the first time you learn it, it seems so superficial because you have to understand how our brain works. Our brain, there's resistance. There's our brain. It's like an artery. God forbid if someone who eats a lot of fat, their arteries start closing, God forbid. And you could have the risk of a heart attack. What is a heart attack? There's so much plaque inside the arteries from built up of fat that the blood is going through instead of a pipe like this, and it gets so constricted that God forbid the blood can't get in, and boom, heart attack, everything pops, and they got to go and they got to clean out the arteries, right? It happens in a car if there's too much gunk stuck in the pipes. That's how it happens with our brain. When we're not using our brain on a regular basis or our bodies, it's called atrophying, meaning the neurons, the sensors start closing and become closed-minded. What does closed-minded mean? You haven't opened up your mind to new realities. You're not aware or you're not allowing in new ideas or thoughts. You shut it down. You have your own worldview based on whatever you said. This is what I believe. I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear. Don't talk to me about that. Why? This is how I feel. You're closing down. When you close down your sensory perceptions in your brain, they eventually start becoming constricted. And when new information comes in, it's like you're talking to someone and they're like, yeah, It's not entering. It's not going inside because it's blocked. So it's the same concept of you've got to kind of keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And what happens is eventually you start clearing out those pathways, right? Talk about neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to open up those pathways again. In other words, they have the capacity to reopen again, but you have to work at it. You have to keep pushing yourself. And it's in everything. We talk about meditation a lot. Excuse me. At first, it's hard to meditate for 30 seconds. You push it to a minute. Cold plunge. Started the cold plunge. I did a minute and I pushed it to a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I'm up to 3.5 minutes now. I'm going to keep pushing it. But at the beginning, I could have never done 3 minutes. You got to build it up. It's at the beginning, it's shocking. It's the same thing when you're pushing and trying to break your head into new information. The idea is that it's deep. There's a lot of depth there. And you have the capacity for it. But it has to start, right? It's
If you're the same person and you have the same information and you're working by yourself, how can you get deeper? So you're reading it and you're reading it. And you're
nice. Sorry, someone. Yeah, someone knows they just found out they're Jewish at 45. Yeah.
So the question is like, how are you going through this? You understand by yourself when you're learning. You understand? It's the same of that. I'm sitting in the same information and I'm reading it and reading it and reading it.
But are you?
What?
Are you saying, yeah, I already know what's written here? No. Story of Rabbi Akiva.
It can be in math when you have challenges in math and the train is going and you're trying to figure it out. And where do you find this space within the day? You understand what I'm saying?
Many tools. One, get a coach, get a guide, get someone to help you. Two, get a chavrus. That's not what I said. I said there's many tools. You didn't let me finish. I did the first tool. Many tools. First one, get a coach, a mentor, someone who could help you. Number two, get a friend. Learn it with another person. Have another perspective. Give a new perspective on it. Number three, start taking classes. Start other people who've learned it before you who are explaining it in a different way. Number four, meditate. Stop. Think about the concept. Try to break it through your head. Number five, ask God for help. I'm stuck here. Please help me. Let me try to do it again. Number six, enter it like a child. Before you start learning it, breathe. Take 2 minutes. Clear your head. Let me try to learn this like it's brand new. Everything follows the will. Everything follows the will. In other words, if you want it and you really want it to go inside, you'll find a way. But what happens is our nature is as soon as there's resistance to just turn away from it and say, oh, it's not working. Instead of, remember I used to tell you when you used to try to open the jar? I'm like, you're like, I can't do it. I'm like, you didn't even twist yet. I'm like, try. Because it was a mindset of I can't do it. So the first step is to change the mindset. And then what happened? Well, you think you became stronger? No. How come you could open it now? Because you shifted your brain. Instead of saying, I can't do it, let me try. And if it's not working, let me try more. Let me try more. You didn't get stronger. Everything's in here. It's all the way we perceive it. It's a journey. It's a journey. And there's people out there who come, we should not know, in para Olympics without legs, and they're doing marathons with their arms. An average person looks at this and says, that's impossible. It's not impossible. How are they doing it? Because they have a ratzon, and the ratzon is, I'm going to do this. Look at Rabbi Akiva. Look at the story with the water dropping, right? One little drop of water over and over and over and over again. If that rock after a year, or that water after a year would say, I'm dripping into this rock for a year, nothing's changed, let me shift and move somewhere else. But over time, it penetrates. There's nothing, I'm positive of it, in this world, that if you really, really set your mind to it, obviously you have to have the physical abilities to do it. You can do it. We use less than 5% of our brain's capacity. A genius uses 5%. The brain has 100% capacity. Just to let you know how much we're really in a surface level. So everything follows the Ratzon. It has to be such a thing where you say, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. This is important for me to learn this and to learn it in a deep way so it's meaningful. What kind of tools can I get to figure this out? And you can. Okay. When I was in my first year of law school, I almost dropped out many times because I literally felt I couldn't do it. Like it got to the point where I'm like, this is just too much information for me to comprehend. It's too much. I can't do it. And it was in my mind, and I almost dropped out a few times, and I aroused the Ratzon inside of me, and I went through this different paths that you did. I got tutors. I got aides. I found a study partner. I said, no, I'm not quitting. And that's the whole idea. It's the mindset. It's the mindset of I can do it. I can do it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to stop until I do it. It's a dangerous place to be because a lot of people are afraid to do it. Because a lot of people are afraid to go all in, to take ownership, because they don't want to face themselves if it doesn't work. Everyone likes to leave themselves a plan B, a little out. It didn't work. Oh, yeah, it didn't work. I didn't really, it wasn't really important to me. I didn't really try. It wasn't really like okay. No, this is not the mindset when you're going into something. This is what we said, ownership. So it has to be this concept of, even though it's a great distance, physical and mental, therefore, an idea that is difficult to understand and far from one's comprehension is also said to be deep. But, as Confucius says, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. In other words, the first step is just showing up. Showing up means this is something that is going to be important to me, and I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to stop. A perfect example, find something in your life. Marriage, raising children. Something you say, you know what, this is a value for me. And therefore, I'm not going to give up on it. And if you look back, there was tens, hundreds of reasons to give up on it. So what made you keep going? Because it was a value for you. So when connecting to God becomes a value, you won't give up. When anything, pick anything in the world that you say, this is something that I'm going to put as a value to me, you'll succeed. The difference is when it becomes a value, it becomes something important. When there's obstacles, when there's resistance, you keep going through. Until you lock in your brain that this is a value, something important, as soon as there's obstacles, you're going to shift directions and go in a different place and say, wasn't for me. No, wasn't for me. The problem is when we get accustomed to doing that, we spend our whole life saying, wasn't for me, wasn't for me, wasn't for me, wasn't for me. And we wake up one day and half our life is gone. What is for you? I don't know. But everything I did wasn't for me. What is for you? I don't know. At some point, we got to hop on the horse and go in a direction. Okay, there are many examples of this in Scripture. We thus find the heavens for height and the earth for depth. And the heart of kings has no probing. This is Proverbs. Yeah, it's from Proverbs. Yeah, it makes sense. Regarding wisdom, Kohelet likewise said, it is deep. Deep, who can find it? In particular, the word depth is used in relation to divine. And how great are your works, O God? Your thoughts are very deep. These 10 depths, therefore, represent 10 directions extended to infinity. That's pretty mind-boggling. That means each one of these spherot, there's no end to it. There's no end to it. And there's infinite depth in each one of them. So what is the goal? Again, the goal is to realize that all these paths have infinite ways to it. But the goal is to come to this balancing point. And that's why I've just in my own journey, it's something I've speak about a lot at the center, and I've spoke to you a lot about. It was very, very hard for me because my nature is to be the best at whatever I do. And that I'm not going to give up until I reached, in my whole life, I lived this way. And I found the path, whether it was having fun or making money or whatever it was, where once I get in it, I was just relentless. I didn't stop. And that's like, that was my whole being. Until I became observant and I realized I can't live that way. Because if I'm going to be the best lawyer, I'm not going to have time for my family. I'm not going to have time for the center. I'm not going to have time for myself. If I'm going to be the best shliach, I'm not going to have time for my law firm. If I'm going to be the best father, the best. So I realized that it's not a very Jewish concept to be the best at everything, but to have a balanced life, and to be a simple servant of God, committed to your family, to your community, to your work. These are all aspects of everything. But it has to come to this place of balance. It has to come to this place of balance. And that's ultimately the goal of everything. Because you see these hyper successful people, most of them have no life outside of whatever direction they're going in. Most of these not all of them, but a lot of them, their family lives are a mess. Look at some of these professional athletes. Look at some of these musicians. They're like traveling around the world. Like, what kind of family life can you have? What kind of there's no balance. So you have to pay a price for whatever it is you do. And just my own life journey, I believe that as Jews, we can never be so involved in any aspect of our life that it swallows us up that we don't have time for other things that are important. It has to really come down to this concept of balancing. Okay, we went over a little bit over. We're going to stop right there. With God's help, we will continue next week. God bless you and much success on your journey.
How are you, honey? You can take a pizza already, but if you want to, whatever you feel like.
Honey.
Yeah.